back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, indeed, that is what we're starting our conversation with here for this segment, the Values Charter. So we've got the Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation, Alhaji Mohammed Idris Malagi. Good morning, and thank you for coming on the program today, sir.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Good
yes,
to be here.
Yeah, well, we've seen this Values Charter, Nigeria's Values Charter. Sounds really good when we hear that. It just, lots of people have talked about the national ethos. Who are we? What do we stand for? What is it that defines us as a people when we get out there? So several questions has been asked over the years. But now, this Nigeria's Values Charter, we've seen some of the highlights in terms of what this can achieve. What made you come up with this in the first place?
Well, thank you again. Good to be here. We all know, and I've said it here the last time I came, that we've seen gradual erosion of our values as a nation. Those values that were bequeathed to us by our founding fathers seem to be going away. And it's becoming so worrisome to the extent that immorality and lack of patriotism appear to be taking center stage for people in this country, for those in government and those outside government. And so all the issues around this country are issues that have to do with lack of patriotism, lack of belief in the value system that we should have as a country. And so we thought that it is important we all come back again, sit down, look at where we've gotten it wrong, retrace our steps, so that Nigeria can recover those lost values that made us a great nation once upon a time. We want to go back to those values. We want to see that Nigeria begins to take its rightful place as a responsible country once again, so that people will respect us more. Nigerians and the children that are also coming will now know that they have a country that they will all be proud of. And perhaps, just perhaps, this may also be part of the solution to the Japa syndrome.
Okay, but I see it's broken down into the two aspects here.
Yeah.
The first is the 7 core promises of the Nigerian state to the citizens. Then you have the 7 commitments of the citizens to the Nigerian state. So the first of the 7 core promises of the Nigerian state to citizens, you talk about equality, democracy, entrepreneurship and employment, peace and security, inclusivity, freedom and justice, meritocracy. And then where we talk about the commitments of citizens to Nigerian state, discipline, duty of care, tolerance and respect, leadership and patriotism, transparency and accountability and integrity, family values and environmental awareness. Now, how do you plan to approach this part, first from the core promises of the Nigerian state to the citizens? Because over the years, many have said, look, the leaders, political class, they have never taken Nigerians seriously, and as such, people don't feel any need whatsoever to have or to be held accountable or to even be beholden or anything whatsoever to the state as a result of this.
Absolutely, and you are right in that direction. You see, for every citizen to believe in his country or in his nation, there must be what is called the social contract that connects him to his country. Now, it is that social contract that this seeks to revive, that seeks to establish. If you want to be a good Nigerian, you also expect the Nigeria of your dream. You also expect that the Nigeria gives you that sense of pride, that sense of belonging, that thing that makes you feel proud to be a Nigerian. And that is why we broke this down into 2 categories. First, there must be something that the citizen of Nigeria looks up to from his country. Social security, for example, equality, and meritocracy, all those things you talked about. It is important that if you want to behave as a Nigerian, you expect that Nigeria, for example, secures you. You don't want to come, and nobody wants to live in fear. Nobody wants to live, in this environment that you feel that maybe something can happen the next hour or the next day, and then you feel like relocating to another place. So that social contract that connects the citizen and the country itself. Those are those 2 things we want to bring together. There is the side that the government has to do, the government represented by elected and appointed leaders. you are expected to, for example, give back to the people that have elected you or to the people that have appointed you that sense of pride. You should behave in a normal way. You should behave, and you know that the Nigeria expect that if you go there, you know there will be no corruption. You should provide equality. You should provide security. You should ensure that this country gives you that sense of pride. Now, it is that will now be what will ginger you to now also give back to your own country. If it is only one way, if government or the elected leaders or the elected representatives or appointed representatives just expect their countrymen or women to behave in a particular direction without them also leading by example, then trust has broken down. And once trust breaks down, then of course you know that the fidelity that exists between the citizen and his country is gone.
But the challenge you are going to face with this is how are we going to ensure that the political class subscribe to this? Because we know that before you know what's going on now, when it's election time, the kind of messages, the diatribes, the division, they take advantage of our fault lines and they drive a wedge in and then to score cheap political points.
Yeah.
How would you solve that with this?
Well, this is why we're bringing this up now. And this is not something, the difference this time around is that we want to persuade and engage Nigerians, elected and those that are being led, to behave in this particular set of direction. If you say, for example, you are elected, you are a councillor, for example, or you are a chairman of local government, and you feel that you can just take away the commonwealth of your people and go away with it, they know that maybe a month before you were elected, you didn't even have a good car, you didn't have a good house. 3 months into your election or appointment, you are suddenly swimming in wealth. Of course, that won't earn you respect. People want to know where you're coming from. The trajectory of an individual is very important. So what we are saying is that those who are elected will be persuaded, and that's why we say the president will have to come together. This is now something that all of us will have to agree upon. It's not something that is going to be forced down the throat of anybody. And that's why we say the president will come up, launch this thing, agree upon it. I said it here in the past that we have been talking about economic revival. Yeah. We've been talking about security. No one has sat down to look at this connection between Nigeria and its citizens. What do you expect the citizen to do? What does the citizen expect Nigeria to do for him? If you take an American, for example, he's so proud of his country because for any American killed anywhere in the world, for example, every American feels hurt. Why is it so? Where is that sense of patriotism? People need to know that those that they have elected are doing the right thing. They are giving them what they say they will give them. Trust will be established. And therefore, when these elected leaders now ask the citizens to also behave in a particular set, in a particular direction, they also now follow. But if you say you want to be a Nigerian, you want to be elected, and then you don't care, you just get there and then you do whatever you want, and then you expect the citizen to also, toe the line that you want them to toe. How does that work? It is this connection that we want to establish. I know that it's going to be a difficult thing. We don't expect this to be a tea party, but we also expect that people will come together on this up in the interest of this nation that we all believe in the interest of our collective existence.
Honourable Minister, it's quite interesting, this charter, and I do know that there are a lot of other things we're going to bring up with you in the conversation today. Yeah. But how quickly do you think this will be bought into, considering also Nigeria is over 60 years, right?
Yeah.
And we've been saying the national pledge for about that. I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend her unity and uphold her honor and glory. These are, some will say, this is a charter that we subscribe to in every gathering of the Nigerian people, in every school, every day. But it appears not to have taken root.
Yeah, the reason...
How would this seemingly different values charter take root?
Now, you see, in the past, the emphasis has always been on how you expect the Nigerian citizen to behave. there has not been attention so much on how Nigeria itself as a citizen. What does it give to that citizen so that he will have this feeling that indeed he is a Nigerian? So what this seeks to achieve is to revive those ethos, those things that Nigeria expects his own leader, his elected representative, his appointed representative. In what direction does the Nigerian citizen expect this representative to behave? How does this representative look at him as a citizen? If he provides those things that the citizen wants, it is expected that a citizen will also in turn respect this leader. Because of course, the symbolism of what Nigeria is usually in the leadership. Throughout history, the power to change the course of mankind has always been vested in leaders. Throughout, the history of any developed, society. So it is the difference this time around, like I said, is that there is this connection, there is this fidelity that we want to now strike. We want Nigerian citizens to behave in a particular direction. But for that to happen, this Nigerian citizen also expects his own country to give him direction, give him security, give him a sense of belonging, provide equity, be fair to him. Now, when these things happen, there will now be some kind of convergence. And this is that convergence that we now want to strike.
Is there a commitment, so to speak, from the Nigerian nation here being personified as a human? Is there a commitment, so to speak, that these things we're talking about would be provided? Equity, justice, fair play, inclusivity.
Yeah.
Would this be provided? Because the level of trust, as we speak, is way down there, where it even exists.
It will be there.
It will.
The Nigerian nation, as we know it today, and I've said it here in this platform, that this was not how we're behaving. Go back to the era of the Sardaunas, the Ahmadu Bellos, the Azikiwes, with the healthy rivalry that existed among those people. There is this commitment. All of them believed in this country. All of them, were leading by example. And because they were leading by example, there was this connection between them and those that were that they are leading. Now, over the years, there is a gradual erosion of that. What led to that? So this idea is to attempt to reestablish, to retrace our steps, to go back to those ethos, those values that made us who we were and who we want to be. Now, I know that you will say it is very difficult. It is indeed difficult. We don't expect that this just happens overnight. But of course, the building blocks that will lead to us achieving this is what we are setting out.
In fact, I think it's the last point about under that 7 core promises of the Nigerian state to the citizens is meritocracy.
Yes.
And you say vices like nepotism, favoritism, and the promotion of mediocrity negate the concept of merit, which is indispensable to the meaningful advancement. Some of the issues you've raised about our founding fathers, what they stood for. There are persons in FCT, even as high as the ministerial level, who say they get the impression that in the FCT, if they are not from the north, maybe around them, people are looking at them suspiciously saying, these ones have come from the south, you want to come and take over the seat here, and they wonder. These are people who are supposed to understand this ethos. So if that is happening to them at that stage, with people who ordinarily understand that, look, the founding fathers wanted us to all live in peace and harmony. How do you, for instance, intend to let those kind of people see reason that it ought not to be that we should abide by some of these?
I think it comes to what I said earlier. By the time whoever is leading, deals with his fellow humans fairly, with equity, with justice, with this belief that we are all Nigerians, whoever is there will also say, come on, I think this person is talking sense. Why don't we listen to him? But when the leader himself, who is now the symbol of leadership, the symbol of Nigeria, now treats people unfairly, without equity, then of course Nigerians will not believe in that. And that's why I said, in the first place, the difference between this charter and what we've been having is that everybody believes that Nigerian citizens will behave in a particular way. But they've not also told the Nigerian citizen, or the Nigerian citizen is not seeing that he's also being respected by his own leaders. He's also not being treated fairly. There is no equity. There's no security provided for him. So why will you now tell me, I mean, it takes two to tango.
Yeah. But, as good as this is on paper, the other challenge is security is a major component that could either support or thwart this. Because if people look and see that, look, certain things are happening, they feel security agencies are not doing what they ought to do, or they get an iota or any idea or impression whatsoever, rightly or wrongly, that they seem to be looking the other way when it concerns a certain group of people. And then when some things are done, they don't approach it rightly. They will question, in fact, they will almost thrash this charter until security does the right thing.
I agree with you, but you also have to also say this. The security agencies, for example, are also doing their best. Sometimes it is easy for you to say security agencies are looking the other way. You don't know what they go through. They are dying every day, paying the supreme price to keep Nigeria one, to keep us all together. Just imagine one night in Abuja without any policeman on the street. Just imagine going to the northeast without a single soldier, without any boots on ground to try to make us sleep well. What will happen? That is where you now begin to imagine that these people are actually contributing to our collective existence. They are contributing to our growth. They are contributing to our development, because without security, like you said, of course, everything else collapses. So it is easy to say security agencies are looking the other way around. But you also have to look at it. There may be a few elements who, of course, are not behaving the way they should behave. But I think by and large, security agencies are doing their best for this country. We need to support them. We need to make them feel. In America, for example, I mean, during the war, the Gulf War, and their war in Afghanistan, when you are at the airport and they bring back bodies of their soldiers who have paid supreme price, people line up, almost sometimes, observing without being told, some minutes of silence just for them to pass. But when you now only project the image of the Nigerian soldier as that one who is not doing enough, as that person who is not there to protect you, then of course there's a problem. He is also a Nigerian. Anybody who is ready to pay the supreme price for you to live must be respected. I think that the security agencies also have to be respected. They also have to see the Nigerians that they are working for, also see them as important players in our national development. But don't just look at them as people who just look the other way around. I mean, arrests are being made. They go to war. These terrorists are being killed. I know it's not enough. They need to do more. But that doesn't mean that they're doing nothing.
Do you agree with some of the people who think that the commander-in-chief has got to hold them up to higher level standards and accountability, such that they all know, and people can also see on the streets, both in terms of their conduct and in terms of the results, such that they can then say, okay, we see, because of course we know that a lot rises and falls with leadership.
Like I said, throughout any history, change can never happen when the right leadership is not there. The leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for example, is providing is such that will give the security agents, always giving the security agents this sense that they are very important to us. Mark you, these people are also Nigerians. They also don't feel happy when, for example, some for media organizations, almost always putting out things that make them feel that they are not doing enough. If, for example, you go out and terrorists are killed. Why don't you put that in front? Why are you in a hurry to say soldiers have been killed? Why are you in a hurry to say that, these soldiers are not doing anything? They're doing so much. So what they also want from you is a two-way thing. You provide for them, they also provide for you. But I understand, and it is important that the president himself, holds them to higher standard of accountability. That's what leadership is about. He will continue to do that,
And speaking of which, I know that he's spoken about how he understands the pains of Nigerians with the economy and some of the decisions that are taken into the interest of Nigerians. But many keep wondering too, that does the government actually understand the gravity, the impact of these policies on everyday Nigerians? They just wonder. So what is it that government doesn't understand how they need to, because people expect all these policies to immediately, in fact, since yesterday, cushion the effect, because both in terms of the CNG buses, the subsidy, palliatives, the impacts have been few and far between.
Okay, let me put it this way. You are premising your argument on the fact that this problem just started yesterday. Now, the foundation of our economy has actually, taken a beating a long time ago. The substructure of our national economy has been one that cannot hold, a meaningful, solid structure on it. So it is important that Nigerians recognize that the president and his team will have to go back to reset that. And that was why from day one, he said, look, subsidy issue has to go. He anticipated that there will be this pain, of course. He anticipated that there will be some difficulty that Nigerians is going to, will encounter. But it would be worse if that subsidy didn't go. It will have been difficult to carry out any meaningful. We need to free up resources.
We haven't seen anyone prosecuted, or at least facing the music concerning, or those who they tag to be subsidy thieves. They said there are several, but we haven't seen one. What's going on?
Well, now this is where you have to look at Nigeria as a nation. First, you have the executive, you have the judiciary, you also have the legislature, and you have the Nigerian people. Everybody has to play his part. It is not enough to just say this person is a thief. Once you say it's a thief and security agents are doing their work, they also rely on another arm of government to say, okay, go and prosecute him. There is no way the president will say, because you're a thief, just go to prison. This democracy happening. We're in a democratic environment. The president cannot say, you are a thief, go to jail.
Are they being investigated?
Of course, everybody is being investigated. The security agents are doing a lot in that. They don't have to come out to say, they will have to reach some point before they come out and say, this is what we have found, and then we are now ready to take this person to court.
Mr. Malagi, but the president also has a team that's supposed to prosecute some of these people that have been indicted, so to speak. So how long would the investigations take place before we begin to see action? Because the truth is, we mentioned earlier, that the trust deficit is there, and Nigerians want to see action. The economy has taken a beating from a long time back. But then a new team is brought on to make a drastic change. And we're seeing, or Nigerians are perceiving that the new team is doing the same old, and expecting different results.
No, I don't think that is correct. I think that the president is doing it differently. When the fuel subsidy was asked to go, he immediately brought in some, interim measures to cushion that. You talked about the CNG, for example, here. That is expected to cut down the cost of transportation by about 50%. Nobody did that before. Labor, on day one, first day of October, the president, he was going to have 25,000 wage award to labor. They came with an argument that 25,000 was not enough. The president listened. We had a conversation with them. Additional 10,000 naira was given. And they accepted it. So the president is not saying, or Nigeria, or the government is not saying that this is going to be the end of the story. But so much is happening as economic team that is always working. I know that we are not yet there. It's not El Dorado yet. But what is important is that this solid foundation will have to be laid for us to achieve the desired prosperity that we all want to achieve. At the end of the day, it's a hard journey. I want you to remember that the president is 7 months old in office. Now, I'm not going to make excuses that 7 months is such a short time. But for a long-term plan, you need a lot more time to continue to put these structures. But across, as you trudge along, there will be shocks, there will be turbulence, there will be this occasional, dislocation that you find. But the vision of the president is very clear. He wants to take Nigeria to desired prosperity. He works day and night to achieve that. Every day, all the ministers and everyone is working in that direction. If the results are not seen yet, we ask Nigerians to be a little bit more patient. I know it is difficult, especially when people are finding it difficult, to purchase some food items as a result of some of these policies. But government is doing a lot to make sure that this thing happens. There are a lot of things, even the FX thing, all those things, they will stabilize at the end of the day. Everybody is unhappy.
If you can hear me.
This level. But of course.
Yeah. Honorable Minister, if you can hear me, thank you so much for all the things that you have said. I have quite a number of things listed, but you said just a second or two ago that, people should understand the vision of the president. This reminds me of the need for a national vision of sorts. You would remember Sonny Okoson's back in time. He sang a very, very prominent song, Which Way Nigeria? And it seems like every time we have a new president, there is a new direction for the country. Every time there is a president, there is a new direction for the country. You have talked about America, and a number of people will also reference one or two other countries that, irrespective of whatever, there is a direction that the country is going, no matter who is in power. What is the national vision? What is the Nigerian vision towards which this national values charter is being piloted? Because it will be good for people to know this is where we are going and this is how we can get there, which is the values charter. What is the national vision? What should Nigerians be seeing as this is where Nigeria is going, whether it's this government or the subsequent ones?
Thank you very much. Of course, we have a vision. There must be a vision for any country to survive. What is that vision? We want to have the Nigeria of our dream. We want to have a country that has prosperity for everyone. We want to have a nation that is safe, that is secured, that is equitable, that puts emphasis on merit. We want to have a nation that will have prosperity, that will measure up with every other developed nation in the world or developing nation in the world. That vision, encompasses the need for all of us, the leaders and the led, to come together to work in that direction. You don't just wake up and then you just have the country that you need overnight. It's a tedious journey, and democracy is a long walk. Of course, every regime that comes, will want to build on that. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not saying every good thing that has happened in the past should be discarded. But what he's saying is that let us drive all of it towards the same vision of national prosperity. A country that all of us as Nigerians will want to have at the end of the day. This is where he's driving this country to. And that is why we ask for this patience. It cannot just happen in 7 months. But of course, the building blocks will have to be laid, like I said earlier. And that's what the president is doing. The vision of the president is that we want to have a country that is united, that is purposeful, that is, secured, that also have a great prosperity for all of us. That's the vision.
Perhaps the challenge, one of the challenges here, which you have spoken to as well in your response to some of Chamberlain and Neota's question, is the implementation. A good number of Nigerians would look at the people who lead them, and you have spoken quite copiously to that it is some of the leaders, ministers. You saw a video recently of a prominent Nigerian, well, we don't know who it was, in an official vehicle going against traffic. And some of those things are remiss all over the country. And a number of people will be asking, so if the leaders are doing this, how are we going to reverse things? There are a number of people who will point to Singapore, China, and a number of other countries and say there are serious punitive measures for anyone, especially leaders, who go against national values. Is there a plan in that direction for us in Nigeria?
Absolutely. And I think you have to go back to what I said earlier. This national value charter we are talking about is not just for the citizen or for the ordinary person. It's also for the person who is also leading. You don't expect a minister or a government, any government functionary to go against traffic. You don't expect him to do what you have asked the citizens not to do. So it's a two-way thing, and that's the difference between this charter and what we have had previously. In the past, everybody says he wants the Nigerian citizen to behave in this direction. What is that person that is saying that? How is he also behaving? So this charter will hold both leaders and the citizens accountable, because, of course, we have already set out what the citizens expect Nigeria to, to provide for him, and we also expect what Nigeria also expects its citizens to behave in a particular direction. So it's a two-way thing. All of them, we are not looking at Nigeria as human now. The two have to come together and behave cooperatively, responsibly, honestly for this to happen. There is no excuse for any leader to go against traffic. There is no excuse for any leader to do what is not right and go scot-free. You've seen in the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has demonstrated that, in the last couple of weeks, nobody is above the law. Once there appears to be any infringement in the way you do your activity, of course leadership will set in, and he has been doing that.
Okay, well, it's a good one. Many people will wait to see how we build from that going on, Honorable Minister. But then you, in the analogy of Nigeria as a person and Nigerians as citizens, it's like that of Nigeria as a vehicle and the citizens as passengers on that vehicle. But then there is a place for mobilization towards this ingenious idea that you have come up with. It is in the Constitution. Section 22 talks about national ethics, and the first of them is discipline, which is also number one of the 7 that Chamberlain read out the other time. It's now in how Nigerians are mobilized to agree with this. Back in time, we had situations where musicians sang songs. Timmy, what's his name? Sonny Okosun, I cited the other time, which were Nigeria. Veno Marioge sang Nigeria Go Survive, and a host of so many other people. Timmy Dakolo did that wonderful song, We Are All We Have, We Defend Our Land, and all of that. And several other people are trying as much as possible to build up towards one united Nigeria. Is music, the entertainment industry, one of the instruments that the Ministry of Information and National Orientation is looking at to mobilize Nigerians towards these values? Otherwise, perhaps there is some other way.
Absolutely. The creative industry as a whole is being involved. Of course, music will be there, the creative arts will be there, and much more. Everybody will be mobilized. It's a huge undertaking, and that is why we say the president is going to lead that. We've had this conversation with the president himself. He's going to lead Nigerians towards that. It is a major project that all Nigerians have to embrace. Without this reorientation, without this orientation of the Nigerian citizen towards a sense of belonging in his own country and how he looks at his own country and how he expects his own country to also behave towards him, there will be no prosperous Nigeria that all of us crave to have. So the creative industry, yes, I agree, they will be part of it and much more. The media, the students, everybody will be part of this at the end of the day.
So when is this going to be launched?
Very soon. We're waiting for the president to be back, and then we're going to have a new date. And this date will be communicated to Nigerians, and the president will lead this. So
this is like going to be something that is going to drive or will be there throughout assuming you get a second term.
Oh, great. Absolutely. And beyond, what we seek to do is to lay a foundation that will become almost impossible for anybody to jettison. I mean, once upon a time, Nigerians were queuing to join buses. Once upon a time, Nigerians were queuing to go to the banks. Once upon a time, Nigerians were looking the other way to see if there's nobody looking at them for them to dispose of their trashes, of their waste. What happened? So it is that collapse of this thinking, of this belief, that we're bringing back. We all have to recover our senses for this country to be great again.
Honorable Minister, we'll see you as next to the president. You're going to be the arrowhead next to the president.
Well, as Minister of Information and National Orientation, I have this responsibility to lead this. Of course, queuing behind the president and following his vision. I intend to do that.
All right, so we do hope that this will play out and everybody, at least the president and the ministers and the elected officials, the governors too, they're all expected to lead from the front when it has to do with this. We thank you for coming on, the Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation, Alhaji Mohammed Idris Malagi. We wish you all the best, yourself and your team.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right, so we'll be back, but business will also come up in a moment. Don't go away.